But again, you can see here now, just with Steve behind us, how all the cars are laying back. And we're only going 50 miles an hour. None of the cars are passing us, which I think demonstrates that people, I think this hit a very raw chord with a lot of people.
You could see how easy it was for us to shut down traffic on a major New York road, and we only had 3 bikes. Many of these biker gangs number in the hundreds. So what happens if you find yourself surrounded on the road? With me, my motorcycle buddy, former NYPD Detective Pat Brosnan, and former prosecutor and now defense attorney Steve Razor. All right, Pat, what do you do if you find yourself surrounded by these dirt bags?
I'm sorry, I lost, but that's a hot bike. I wasn't able to concentrate.
Yeah.
That's a beautiful bike.
You like your bike?
I do, in fact. Listen,
All
you do
right,
precisely what he did, self-preservation, and particularly when there's a 2-year-old and the baby's mother in the car. He had to flee. He did precisely what any reasonable person, including me, who's armed, would have done the exact same thing.
All right. And, you know, we hear that these guys are doing this. These are pop-up whatever.
Right.
That they do in major cities where what they're doing all these stunts. They intimidate the vehicles, the motor vehicles on their bikes. They videotape it with a camera on their helmet. What's that about?
And I've actually seen them. I've seen them in Miami. I've seen the same crew. What they do is they wheelie, they do these stoppies, which is a reverse wheelie, and they want to get in front of all the cars. The whole trick is to get in front of the cars. They do that by suppressing vehicular traffic. And as you saw yesterday, Judge, the way you suppress vehicular traffic with just 3 bikes, you just stay in 3 lanes.
You know what?
The cars aren't going to pass you.
It was stunning. I turned around, and there were loads of cars behind us, and in front of us, it was completely open.
Exactly.
And that's with 3 bikes.
3.
So, all right. Now, you know, Steve, you're a lawyer here. What we've got is we've got this guy taken off. He's got his family in the car, runs over a guy who's paralyzed, okay? And they say is going to be paralyzed, and who, by the way, says he's the victim. I'm not even going to ask you because he's not. Do you think he's going to sue the Range Rover? Does he win?
Well, he's certainly going to sue, and you know who his attorney is, by the way, so there's no question about that. Yeah. Will he win? It doesn't appear that he can win. I'll tell you what, though. Let me say I don't think he will win against the driver of the SUV. However, if it does turn out that there's criminal liability for the individual who forced the SUV to stop, there is a theory to go after that individual for the injuries that he sustained because he created the environment.
And that was Christopher Cruz, who stopped his bike right in front of the Range Rover. But if they're all part of this gang that has a uniform intent to stop traffic and do these stunts, isn't he considered kind of an accomplice to Cruz?
Absolutely.
And yet he's going to use Cruz as his excuse to sue?
Well, he could use Cruz as well as the others. As you well know, accomplice liability makes him equally liable with all the other riders.
All right, good. Now, we find out today, New York City cops in this biker group, and let me make one thing perfectly clear. Cops, by and by on bikes, are lawful, follow the rules, and I think these guys are without a doubt, or women, I don't know what they are clearly the exception. What's going to happen to cops who were involved in this group, breaking the window, watching the beatdown of this guy? What happens?
They have a lot of accounting to do. They're going to be called on the carpet extensively in relation to direct violations of the patrol guide. You must report. You have a compunction to report when it's feasible and safe. They saw a criminal act in their presence, and they did nothing. And moreover, they didn't report it.
All right. What about the undercover guy who apparently was right there when the father is dragged out of the Range Rover? He said, I don't want to blow my cover. You know what? I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. You don't want to blow your cover. Here's the problem. He waited 3 days to report. What does that tell you, Pat?
He's also going to have a lot of explaining to do. Whether or not his undercover capacity related directly to this gang of bikers is unclear.
Right.
I don't know.
The
jury's out on that. It's immaterial, actually, because the issue at hand is why he didn't report for 72 hours.
Right.
Again, a serious breach and a direct violation of patrol guide procedure.
All right. And Steve, I understand that the mother started making calls, 911 calls at 1:52, and that stretch of road that Pat and I covered yesterday took us how long?
Took us about 7 minutes, I think.
7 minutes. Okay. During the course of 8 or 9 minutes, she made 4 911 calls. No police response.
Right. And obviously
liability here?
Well, liability of the city would be very difficult, but it could be argued because, look, there's hundreds. I mean, there's at least 100 bikers on the road here closing down the roads. There's a reason for the police to react, even without the 911 call. So once you start interjecting 911, and this is precisely what it's there for, is to intervene in situations like this. They don't respond the first time. They don't respond the second time, third, and fourth. But again, it's going to be very hard to directly link their liability to this. However, what I think it's more likely to be an issue for the police is it's a public relations nightmare for them.
Okay, forget the public relations nightmare. What about the fact, Pat, that this woman is desperately calling for help? You've got the 28, the 32, and the 34 precincts all there along the West Side Highway. Highway cops, nobody's there. That's a problem?
Well, a problem in what regard?
For the NYPD, why aren't they sending people out?
Well, as Steve mentioned, of course it's a public relations nightmare, but I don't know that they don't send them out. It goes through Central 911 Command and they dispatch. Keep in mind, Judge, that 55 of these motorcycles were compounded and vouchered within the hour earlier.
Not here.
In Times Square.
But see, what it means is the PD knew that they were coming. All right, I want to move this very quickly. And by the way, NYPD apparently has a policy that you don't chase bikers because in the end it's the innocent bystander who gets killed. But I want to call for a license plate. Do we have that license plate, Sot?
What you can see here on this bike is when I power up my bike, that plate comes down from underneath the fender. It's a hydraulic plate. It's a hideaway. What happens with these guys is, as you can see, the plate goes up under here. You power it on.
And the license plate comes out.
Correct. But they have an additional switch. Their switch is up on a column right by the dash.
Yeah.
It's an accessory switch, and what it does is while they're riding, they can retract the plate. That's the difference.
Right, so they don't have
That's
to
illegal.
turn it off.
They don't have to turn it off. Right. I have to turn it off in order for the plate to go up.
All right, interesting there. And what we now know is that the bikers primarily, they didn't have plates that were visible, and they have this hydraulic feature.
Exactly right. And you can see that in the tape. Not only do they not have plates on the bikes, but on some of the bikes that have them, I recognize right off, they have this hydraulic feature, which is illegal.
Right.
That and a full-face helmet. All right. Where's your identification?
Steve, does that tell you what their intent is from the get-go?
Well, it certainly does indicate they're probably up to no good, but...
No buts. Pat, Steve, thanks for being with us.
Thank you.
And another feather in the cap of Lois Lerner. Find out what the IRS